My name is Kevin Chang, for an organization called Kua'aina Ulu Awamo, or Koʻa. And we try to hold these calls. We don't have a regular timing to them, but we have these calls we call Koʻa calls. Like a ko'a, it's a place to gather. And if we have people we want to kind of learn from and ask questions to, we try to organize these sessions so we have these opportunities. And today we're lucky to have the administrator of the Division of Aquatic Resources at DLNR, Mr. Brian Neilson. Thank you, Brian, for calling in today. We asked Brian if he could maybe talk to us a little bit about DAR's vision for the next year or two, especially in light of the recent budget passed for them. And usually, Brian, what we do is the person who calls in will talk, give us some presentation or talk casually about the issue of the moment, maybe for 20 minutes to half an hour. And then we reserve the last half for community to ask questions or to interact. But good to go, Brian, when you're ready. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mahalo for the invite, Kevin, and the opportunity to talk about DAR's budget and some of our priorities. So yeah, usually we're kind of used to just complaining about our budget, but we actually got a pretty good budget this year. So it's good to be reporting on that as well. But I think, right now is pretty, it's kind of one of those rare times where there is a lot of opportunities to kind of build the ko'a with not only the surplus that we got in our state budget, but I saw that the notice of funding opportunity was just released by NOAA for the Inflation Reduction Act money. I haven't had a chance to really dive into that, but it sounds like there's going to be a lot of funds to kind of build out, expand on different marine conservation projects throughout the state. So hopefully we can keep that conversation going and work together to develop new projects and priorities. And what I have heard from NOAA so far is they don't have the capacity to grant, a bunch of different, funds to a bunch of different organizations. They want folks to work together and collaborate on combined proposals. So I hope that we can all work with you folks to kind of come up with some really good Maukara Makai projects to move the needle with some of the conservation issues we're facing, especially with climate change, and build capacity as well. But Kevin asked me to kind of go over our budget from this fiscal year. We just received the budget a few weeks ago, but this would be our FY24, fiscal year 24 budget. And this was kind of a weird year. I'd never gone through the budget process in an administration transfer. So we developed a budget for the IGE administration and submitted that. And then the governor, looks at your proposal and then decides what they want to put forward. And usually that's not what you asked for. So we had Governor Ige's budget, and then with the Green administration coming on board, we went through that again really quick in January. And then there was the Green budget proposal. And so it got really confusing in the budget hearings when they're asking you about different requests and stuff, and you're trying to figure out, was this the Ige request or the Green request? But it shook out pretty well. So I'll just kind of go over some of the highlights. So, one thing we asked for was a ceiling adjustment for the ocean stewardship special fund. So this is a special fund that was set up to support ocean stewardship. But the big revenue source for this will be the ocean stewardship user fee. This will be a user fee that will be collected from commercial ocean tours like snorkeling tours, whale watching tours. Anyone that has a commercial use permit through DOBOR, every passenger will pay $1. That goes into this special fund that then goes to DAR, and we manage it for ocean conservation. 20% of that, off the top of that, goes to OHA, but the rest of it is up to DAR to invest back in the ocean. So this could be education outreach, it could be coral restoration, it could be maintaining day use moorings so that the commercial operators aren't, damaging the reefs with anchors and that type of thing. It could be ecosystem monitoring, it could be marine debris cleanup. So pretty wide scope for the use of these funds. We're just going through the rulemaking process now to establish this user fee, but we hope to start collecting in January. And so what we wanted the ledge to do was increase the ceiling on the special fund so that it could receive all these funds, because that's one way that they kind of manage us is we might be bringing in all sorts of revenue, but they can control the ceiling of the bank account where that revenue gets deposited. And so you might bring in the money, but you can't necessarily spend it because they've capped the ceiling. So they did approve our request, so the ceiling would be capped at $1 million. I don't think we're going to bring in that much with the user fee the first year, since it's going to take a while to get compliance with operators and educate those folks on this new fee. But so that was a great kind of budget item. In terms of positions, so we're always asking for new positions from the legislature. We can't hire a position unless it's approved by the legislature, but they don't like to hand those out very easily. And kind of knowing that they were going to take a real conservative approach this year, we requested some federally funded positions, so positions that don't even come out of the state budget. So they did grant a few of those. So we got 2 aquatic biologists positions, and these will be federally funded positions. So we still have to raise the funds from federal grants to fund these positions, but we're looking at placing 1 to do watershed management on Maui, West Maui, but this would be really coral conservation focused, near shore, water quality focused watershed management. And then placing the other biologist in West Hawaii to focus on coral restoration, since we're ramping up coral restoration in West Hawaii and have some federal grants to do that. And then we got 1 other administrative position to help us manage federal funds. So picked up 3 new positions. Then we got some operating funds as well. We got 1 line item that will support adding fencing around some inculine pools that are really sensitive habitats in Waianae. This is right next to the boat harbor where, there's been an encampment there for years, and those inculine pools have been severely polluted. So we are wanting to fence off those areas to kind of protect those from rubbish getting thrown in those ponds and help those ecosystems recover. And then the big line item that we got is just a one-time boost, kind of a stimulus to our operating funds for $14,790,000. And this is for renovations, improvements, acquisitions, vehicles, equipment, that type of thing. But and we do plan to, replace some of our old vehicles and upgrade some of our facilities that, have a bunch of repair issues and that type of stuff. Our Kona office is a couple of trailers with an incinerator toilet. So they're really begging for maybe some plumbing. So yeah, we are looking to make some of those improvements, but conversations with the legislature, they really wanted to see some investment and in our marine ecosystems as well. So we do want to put funding towards fish pond, capacity building, coral restoration, funding carrying capacity studies for some of our marine life conservation districts, invasive species research and management, fisheries planning and research, ecosystem monitoring, creel surveys, that type of stuff. But we've got to allocate all these funds in the next year, otherwise they're going to go back to the general treasury. So it's going to be a mad rush trying to get these all kind of encumbered in some type of contract by next June. And I can pause there. I've also got some updates for DoCare's budget, because I know there's always a lot of interest in DoCare, but those were kind of the big highlights for DAR's budget. Or did you want me to keep going, Kevin? I can do that too.
Keep going. We're also
Okay.
setting up Jason to do a call with us too in the future.
Okay, great. Well, he'll have way more to add than I do, but just Jason did provide me with some of their budget highlights as well. So they got, it sounds like 4, this is for DoCare that I'm talking about now. So they got 4 permanent positions added for this fiscal year, or for fiscal year 24, but then an additional 25 positions for fiscal year 25. So that's on top of the 41 that they just graduated for this, they just graduated from the academy, 41 positions. And so 25 more coming on it in fiscal year 25. And then they also received some funding, like operating funds to equip, all of the new cadets and the incoming officers. It looked like they got 4.6 million in fiscal year 24, and then a 4.3 million in 25. So this is, I'm guessing, for vehicles, boats, and the equipment that they need to run their training facility, that type of thing. And then it looks like they got another 125,000 appropriated to establish an unmanned aerial system. So that's pretty cool too. I'm guessing that's using drones for enforcement activities. So, we're pretty excited about that, just considering how much coastline DoCare has to cover. So those are kind of the budget highlights. I've also got some summaries of some of the bills and resolutions that passed. I could run through that too, but I can also just stop if you're going to hit that at some other point.
No, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so not a big year for at least for DAR in terms of administrative bills. We didn't actually have any administrative bills in this session, but there were some good things that came through. So number 1, which you guys all know about, designating Limu Kala as the official Hawaii State Limu. So that was pretty awesome. That went through. And then there was a resolution on the House and Senate side designating Hawaii's coral reefs as critical natural infrastructure and strongly supporting nature-based solutions such as coral reefs restoration for risk reduction. And this designation helps the state tap into FEMA dollars, not only in the response, like after a hurricane event, getting out there and cleaning up debris that may do further damage to the reef, but also tapping into funding to prevent damage during hurricanes and make our marine areas more resilient to these type of events. There was another couple of resolutions urging the Department of Land and Natural Resources to minimize human interaction at certain locations during coral spawning events. So those are actions like Kahalu, I think Wailea Marine Life Conservation District, and we actually don't have the authority to shut down waters, but in these cases, they work with the landowner, whether it's the county or the state, to restrict access during those critical spawning times. So that was another resolution. There was another one urging the Department of Land and Natural Resources to protect Hawaii waters and resources by prohibiting seabed mining. So I don't think anyone wants to see seabed mining. Let's see. Some of these are just redundant resolutions. And then the last one, requesting the Department of Land and Natural Resources to conduct a study on the Marine Life Conservation District designations. So there's a report that we'll be submitting to the ledge in FY24. So those were kind of the notable bills and resolutions this session. And you know, that's not comprehensive. There's plenty of others that I'm sure you guys were tracking, but those were the ones that Dar was tracking. And I'll stop there, Kevin.
Thank you, Brian. Maybe folks, if you have questions, if you can raise your hand and then I can call you. I don't see any hands raised yet. Oh, there you go, Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for coming on and sharing. It's great to get a little more insight into the budget that you're working with. And I was just wondering if you could, as far as the positions the 3 positions that you have, what's your timing and sort of process on the hiring of those?
Yeah, the good parts, we got the positions. The bad part is it takes forever to fill them. So yeah, I'm guessing a year and a half probably by the time, because you know, when we get new positions, we have to do a reorganization to establish those, and then they get put in the queue and wait there a long time. We've got, I think, close to 40% vacancy in our division right now, and most of those are just sitting at DHERD, Department of Human Resources, just sitting in the queue, waiting to be advertised or waiting for them to give us lists of names. So yeah, it's going to be a while.
Thank you, Scott. One question that came up while you were talking was, you said something about you need to get authorization to receive IRA funds. How does that work then? For divisions to get better resources? What is the process in that?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the NOFO in detail, but I would guess, you know, we submit a proposal to NOAA, but we would be looking at different, you know, municipalities, whether it was different agencies or different partners, nonprofit partners, or it could be university, all collaborating together on a proposal and submitting that to NOAA, and the state, maybe the entity submitting it, or maybe it's, you know, another entity. But what I've heard from NOAA is they want to see people working together to submit these proposals rather than a bunch of individual agencies or nonprofits submitting.
But Brian, do you have to be given authority to pursue federal funding, or?
We don't need authority, but we do have to request the legislature to raise our ceiling to accept those funds. You know, I don't know why the state wouldn't want us to apply for federal funds, but it's always this like back and forth during the ledge session of asking, well, how much, you know, grants do you expect to come in, and you know, questioning about the ceiling increase. So that's one one way that they do authorize us to receive federal funds is just the ceiling for accepting those funds. The other thing is, since a lot of these funds are reimbursement, the state has to, like if we receive the grant, the state has to come up with the funds and then they get reimbursed. And so I guess that's maybe why they want to approve these things.
Oh, so if you wanted to get federal funding, you actually have to increase your budget during the legislative session. Otherwise, are you precluded?
I don't think we would ever miss out, but yeah, during the session, we submit a form and we include every grant we're applying for, which, usually it's 50% that actually land, those proposals, but we just include everything so that the ceiling can be adjusted. But yeah, I don't think there's ever been a case that we've actually been precluded.
Interesting.
I saw Andrea had her hand up.
Hi, yes, thank you. I was wondering if there's been any movement on furthering the sunscreen bans, sunscreen ingredient bans, specifically avobenzones and nano zinc.
Trying to remember, usually there's a ton of sunscreen bills. I thought there was a couple this session, maybe someone on here that's way more tuned in with the sunscreen legislation might know more than I do, but I thought I saw some at the beginning of the session, but yeah, I don't think any of them made it through.
Thank you very much.
And I believe the National Science Foundation, if they haven't already, they also just did like a big comprehensive study on sunscreens that if it hasn't come out already, it should be coming out soon. That will hopefully shed more light on, the chemical impacts to marine areas.
Oh, looks like I raised my hand. I'll call upon myself to ask this question. In terms of listing out some of the funding resources, you mentioned something about supporting fish pond capacity. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, well, I should mention too, one thing that I forgot to mention was there was a grant and aid approved for Pai fish pond. I can't remember how much, might have been like, do you remember, Luna? Was that like 350 or something like that for Pai? So those are grants that you can apply to the legislature for funding, special projects. So that was one fish pond support. There was bills introduced this session and seemed to be a lot of excitement around building capacity at fish ponds and brood stock, creating brood stock, but none of those bills made it through. So that's what we were thinking. We would use some of our funding to support Waianae High School's aquaculture program. We provided some funds for them last year, and it's kind of multi-pronged where they're educating youth, teaching them how to teaching them about aquaculture techniques, but then also I think the goal is to be able to provide brood stock for fish ponds. So we plan to continue that again this coming year as well. Also, we're looking into some research to be able to help fish ponds identify the conda mullet, the invasive conda mullet from native ama mullet with like a test strip. Supposedly there's these like test strips that have been developed where you can do like a quick DNA test and differentiate species. So there's a researcher at HPU that is interested in doing some of that work. So that might be another tool that fish ponds could have at their disposal.
Thank you, Brian. Go ahead, Jocelyn.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Brian, for that really helpful summary. I was just thinking about with the the major operating one-time budget increase, you described sort of the intentions around like the kinds of equipment and sort of repairs and those types of things. I'm wondering what kind of thinking is happening around kind of using some of those funds perhaps more creatively after those needs have been met, right? One of the needs I know we've talked about over the years is like a need for, I'm going to just say it because Luna's here, more Lunas, right? There's only one Luna, but right, that sort of just really valuable position of coordination for communities at each different island. If there's some way to make use of this one-time surplus to seed some of those kinds of jobs. I imagine you guys are thinking about it. So just curious how far you've gotten in your thinking.
Yeah, we definitely have, in our draft spend plans, funding for, temporary positions, since it's just one-time funding. It's not going to last forever, but like you say, we can seed some of these programs and looking at encumbering them in like a 5-year contract to, if you do establish a position, have it last 5 years. So we're definitely looking at that. So adding more technicians, that's a big thing that the neighbor islands have been asking for, but there is some other positions in there as well. Getting a couple of positions on Molokai, since Dar, our Maui folks get over there, once a month or so, but just getting some Molokai residents, funded over there. Again, to plant the seed, it's not going to last forever, but hopefully that can plant the seed until we can find a long-term funding source with, maybe the ocean user fee could fund some positions, or this non-resident fishing license that we're working on. Maybe that could be another funding source.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, one other follow-on was you mentioned that resolution about the MLCD study, Marine Life Conservation District study. That was the first time I had heard of that, and certainly hadn't focused on it if I had heard about it. Just kind of begs the question, like, who's asking for that and why?
Definitely seemed like it was kind of coming from the area of like questioning whether we need marine life conservation districts. But I guess we just see it as an opportunity to educate the legislature on the status and, what we're seeing, what benefits they provide, what are the issues that we have, because our marine life conservation districts are also getting loved to death, as many of us know. So it's a chance to kind of report on some of those activities as well.
Thank you, Josh. Damien.
Hello, Brian. Joining us. I'll ask you, is there any chance of support, some funding for the West Hawaii Fisheries Council?
Yeah, thanks, Uncle Damien. Yeah, we could talk about that. Are you looking for support for coordinating the council meetings, or we could talk offline more about that too? But yeah, we're definitely open to hearing the needs for the West Hawaii Fishery Council.
Yeah, just some basic supplies and a venue, fees and stuff like that for our chairs that set up the meetings.
Okay,
Maybe
yeah, we can follow up with you to talk about that.
All right, thank you. Oh, one more question. Did you guys host your SAP office?
Did we, can you repeat that?
Did you hire more staff for your permit office, the SAP?
Yes. Luna, do you want to talk about that, since that falls under Luna's program?
So currently we're rewriting one of the positions to make an additional permitter. so that we can have 3 civil service permitting positions. So that position is being redescribed from protected species and being redrafted as a permitter to help Kathy them.
There was a bill introduced to automatically reject any SAP that had been active for 90 days or something like that. So that was whoever wrote the bills, way to try to solve the problem with our SAPs. But that bill didn't make it. They did amend the bill to provide a couple of extra positions, because it really is a capacity issue. But that bill didn't make it through. But we hear you. We're working on it. We're trying to, like Luna said, add the other position, but also kind of streamline the process for applicants as well to kind of make it run a little smoother on both sides.
I think Justin sort of said it, but like I'm hoping that some of these funds you have can go towards building the capacity for government community collaboration more. Not just creating Lunas, but I know Luna's moving up more in his Kuleana, so Luna has to create other Lunas. So we need other Lunas because Luna's not always going to be the same Luna that Luna has been. So, but another question I have is on the ocean user fees. Maybe two. One is, can those funds be used to create more community collaborative capacity within the government? But can some of those funds actually go to support community efforts directly?
Yeah, I mean, the scope of what you can use the funds for is pretty broad, as long as it supports marine conservation. So I don't see why it couldn't. And we should probably all talk about what those needs are. Another aspect is just spreading the funds around. So if funds are collected from commercial operations on Kauai, those funds should stay in Kauai, and but we don't really have those project lists or spend plans developed for each island yet. So that would be great to hear some ideas. Also with the Inflation Reduction Act, I think we could talk about ideas for creating more community capacity and liaisons as well. So yeah, I'd love to hear some of these ideas.
Will there be an opportunity to provide input on that, like, or is it just casual, like we call you or Luna? Will there be like actual, not public hearings, but ways for citizens to provide input on it as you guys put together your spending plans?
Are you talking about, for the ocean stewardship?
Yeah.
Sophie, I think what we'd like to do is get a survey out, to get some input on what types of work you'd like to see done and whether that's, cleaning up marine debris, or is it, working with fish pond restoration or whatever it might be. So I think like a survey approach, but yeah, we're always down to talk story as well.
Brian, I don't know if I missed it, but did you say what they expect the ocean user fee to generate annually?
Yeah, so Conservation International helped us out by providing a feasibility study, and they projected, I think, the first year, and assuming that you might have like 75% compliance with the operators, that it would be like $1 million a year. And then once you get into the like 90s, 90%, 95% compliance, then it could be up to 3 million a year. And of course, that'll ebb and flow with tourism numbers, and now DOBOR's talking about capping the number of permits and stuff too. We definitely don't want to be in the business of trying to create more ocean use, commercial ocean use, so we can keep bringing in the money, but we might as well at least have some investment back into the resource. But yeah, 1 to 3 million. And then, that's non-federal funds too. So those can be matched as well with federal funds.
Going back to aquacultural capacity and fish ponds, I think Brenda put a question in the chat. Whether in the facilities budget, is there anything you folks are planning to do or revive at Wailoa?
Wailoa, I think they're repairing the roof there. The roof is in bad circumstances. I think it's just kind of some facility repairs, but nothing in terms of like getting a aquaculture program going again. But if folks have ideas, we're open, because we also have our Dingle Johnson Sport Fish dollars that could support stock enhancement, and we've been hearing from fishers for years that they want to see funding going to stock enhancement, but yeah, we don't know kind of how to start. It's just kind of a lot to kind of take on and worry about, getting it going in terms of how much that investment is. But I don't have to tell Brenda that.
Yeah, thanks. No, I was curious because I heard that Luke and some of his students went to go help clean out some tanks recently, and so I was wondering, oh, maybe you guys are actually thinking of letting folks use the tanks or getting the piping all kind of fixed up for holding tanks, maybe even.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because one thing that DAR does have is access to facilities, water tanks, that type of stuff. That's a lot easier for us to provide than trying to run a stock enhancement program when we don't really have that expertise in-house, but we do have the facilities. So that's definitely something that we could look at creating partnerships for if there's folks willing to partner.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Anybody else have questions for Brian? I think that's all I got that I wrote down. Brian, is there anything beyond budget you would want our group to know about or think about?
Yeah, I guess DAR's got 5 different rule packages that we're working on right now. So should be hearing a lot from us, but we've just about got them all through the first stage of the rulemaking process and getting approval to go to public hearing. We still have to do Kipahulu, June 23rd, right, Scott? So that's on the list, and I think Molokini's on that as well. But yeah, the next stage will be going to public hearing. So we'll be trying to get the word out just so everybody knows what's going on and has a chance to engage, whether you support, oppose, or have suggested amendments. We want to hear from folks. So I guess just keep that on your radar, but yeah, there is going to be like, public hearing saturation here. Like once we hit August, it's going to be a lot going on. So if you guys can help spread the word, that would be great.
Thank you, Brian. Well, here's another question. Oh, Terry, I see you put your name, hand up. Your question, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm actually Jeff, Terry's husband.
Oh, yes.
So just another idea to throw out there for the fees generated by the user fee. You know, we're a dive shop in Kona, and there's some community groups that use Kailua Pier for swimming year round, not just Ironman races and stuff, but training, and then also the canoe clubs who are kind of in need of having some permanent buoys put in for their starting lines for the canoe races, and just some buoys, and they need to be put in carefully so that clubs aren't dropping concrete blocks on coral and stuff like that. So it seems like maybe that would fit in with the conservation and coral restoration and stuff like that. And if we could do a survey and determine where would be the place, I don't know, maybe create an ORMA for that area. Terry had to be on another conference call right now, so I'm representing, but I don't know what the process would be to submit ideas like that for potential use of those dollars that'll be generated by the ocean user fee.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. And we have been having some internal conversations about helping establish permanent moorings to mark canoe courses, especially after the events from a couple of weeks ago. So we're definitely already having those conversations internally, and that's something Dar would like to support as well, to make sure that the races can establish their course without having to damage corals in the process, and make that a little bit easier. So good idea, and yeah, we'd be happy to work on that.
Thank you.
And I see Damien's got his hand back up.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you have any, the Star have any plans to use Kevin Lane's Molokini studies to in their rulemaking process.
What was that? To use what in the rulemaking process?
I think he's talking about Kevin
Wayne's
the Molokini tourism.
Molokini
Oh.
study.
Oh, yeah. So Kevin Wang's recent study that kind of documented the impacts of commercial boating or commercial use impacts on some of the fish species at Molokini. We definitely presented that to the land board for the Molokini rules in justifying some of the changes to the mooring permit structure, and kind of establishing a schedule and fee structure for the Molokini. But I think that's about it right now, Molokini specific, but we are hoping to develop a carrying capacity study for Old Kona Airport Marine Life Conservation District this coming year, and I think we're hoping to do Wailea Marine Life Conservation District as well. So I think some of these studies documenting the impact of commercial use may inform some of those carrying capacity studies, but it's kind of too early to tell, but it's definitely on our radar.
Thank you, Damien. Another question in the chat from Jocelyn. Any consideration being given to using surplus funds to try out commercial fishery observers or cameras for commercial fisheries in state waters?
Yeah, I don't think we've even talked about that, or talked about how we'd implement that, but it's a good idea.
When I was running this small grant making program out of RLF several years ago to help fishers offset the costs of being like assessed against the Marine Stewardship Council sustainability guidelines and stuff. There was a fishery, at least one out of Florida that asked for grant money to install cameras for, monitoring of their commercial catch, right? Because the shrimp in the Gulf, there's a lot of bycatch issues, I understand it. Anyway, so it just seemed like it's a hard cost for equipment, kind of one-time thing. And there's been so much discussion lately about the proposed commercial fishing exemptions from the herbivore rules. I know nobody likes spied on, but at the same time, just seemed like something to throw out there in the mix for consideration as you guys are figuring out all the creative and inventive things to do with this opportunity. Thanks.
Yeah, Jocelyn, the only area that I know that this conversation is coming up is with protected species, especially the false killer whale. That's a really hot issue right now, and NOAA calls it electronic monitoring, but it's exactly what you're talking about. And I think they've brought up the idea with the, what's it called? The short set commercial fishery. It's like a shorter long line set than what's done in federal waters. But Luna, anything that you want to mention about that?
Nope, thanks for jumping on that. So Brian Ishida and Janine have been kind of tackling that in this take reduction team. And so that was one of the things that they brought up. Brian Ishida had some concerns because he showed them the fishery and how that aligns. So we're in discussions with them, but there are some of those fishers who is just like, one of them is like, you can just come on my boat, I'll show you what happens. And so we're trying to partner with some of those fishers to like make that connection.
Thank you.
A couple other things on the horizon. So our new chair, Don Chang, and Deputy Laura Ka'akua, and the water deputy Kaleo Manuel are going to be holding community listening sessions sometime this summer, which we're kind of already in the summer and they haven't announced dates yet. So I'm guessing it's late summer, but they are going to be holding community listening sessions. So just want to put that on your radar, and we can make sure to get that information. Hopefully it's hitting you through other networks or announcements, but we'll make sure to get it to you folks. One other thing on the horizon, DAR's just starting the early stages of a DAR strategic plan. I don't think we've ever even had a strategic plan before. Individual projects or programs have had strategic plans, but I don't think we've ever had a strategic plan. So that's something we hope to get feedback from you folks on once we get it to the feedback stage. And then DLNR is also developing a strategic plan. So I think that's a first as well that I've heard of. So just kind of want to let you guys know of these things on the horizon.
Oh, thank you, Brian. That's both good to know, but then also possibly scary. We'll have to see. I don't see anything else in the chat. Are there any other questions? We got 5 more minutes if anyone has anything they want to ask.
I see in the chat, Colleen asked, is Dobor involved? Or is that Uncle Press, or is it?
Must be Colleen, because she spelled it incorrectly.
I'm not sure if she's referring to the community top story sessions or the strategic plan, but I'm pretty sure Dobor will be involved in the community I think they're calling them community listening sessions. And so I think anything under DLNR's purview is on the table for those. And then the DLNR strategic plan, yes, all the divisions will be covered under that as well.
Thank you, Brian S. Presley.
Oh, Uncle, okay.
It's kind of a hot topic for us.
Good for us at these meetings, because then, people just complain about Dobor and then Dar's kind of spared.
Brian, this has been a discussion since, as far as I can remember. It's not necessarily a plan, but I think there was a period that you guys were talking about structure and things like that. And what has always been an issue is the silos that every division tends to work within, where there's no kind of, this is the same issue with community, is why we want people who are good at helping collaborate and build kind of a similar ethic between government and citizens. But also within the larger deal in our institution, where there's less silos and there's more ability to communicate. And it would seem that we're in a period now where actually we have the capacity to probably over communicate some things sometimes. But at least some of the technology may have advanced where that's possible now within DLNR. But I just wanted to throw that out there, because I'm sure that that's the kind of stuff our folks will be saying once you guys are kind of opening up strategic planning to questions and things like that.
I can chime in really fast that we did have Dobor, Docare, and Dar all at the table, and it was Makai Watch, but Laura and the chair was there, so the deputy and the chair was there, and they were trying to figure out, like, how do we communicate and to get all three of us, because if it's in that Makai realm, those are the three divisions, and so just building that relationship and getting Dobor more involved with that.
Yeah, I think, one of the goals of the community listening sessions too is, like you say, break down some of the silos and look at the connections, between our marine areas and what Dar's managing, what Dobor's managing, but also on the Malka side, DOFA, state parks, and see where things overlap and look at marine conservation as not just fishing regulations, but it could be the land practices as well, and kind of accounting for some of the Malka activities and how that's affecting marine areas in a positive way or a negative way.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. It's 4:26. Anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, we want to thank you, Brian and Luna, for making it and taking the time. We have a lot of aloha for you, and also we'll continue to criticize and spank you simultaneously. But we appreciate the work you guys have been doing and the work you will continue to do. And mahalo nui.
Mahalo nui to you, and thanks for the interest and the invite, and we'll take the criticism as well. We got pretty thick skin by now, so keep it coming.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody. Aloha.